Morning everyone, I hope this video finds you well, and it's just a quick update following last night's budget debate and vote as tabled by the Liberal Democrat administration, of which I voted against. And I wanted to briefly explain to you why I voted against last night's budget. So it may not surprise you to hear that generally I believe in low tax, but more importantly and more accurately actually, I believe in fair tax. And what I mean by fair tax is something that I can hand on heart, look you in the eye and explain why I would support that particular thing. And that's my benchmark when I look at these sorts of things. Now, the budget tabled last night predominantly was expected and was within what we would expect the council to put forward, given the tough kind of financial situation that we're in at the moment. However, there were three elements to that budget that I personally felt was very unfair. The first was cutting the youth grant fund from £200,000 to £100,000. In normal language, that's a fund that's used to fund youth clubs, people like Prout Bridge in our ward, but community groups and organisations and charities across Dorset that provide support and facilities to our young people. Cutting their funding by £100,000, halving their budget, in my eyes, is unfair. The second is cutting the cost of living fund from £2 million to £500,000. I think cutting that fund by £1.5 million is really unfair. And that fund is used to fund people like our food bank, Citizens Advice Bureau, Age UK, and other charities and community groups that provide help and support to the most vulnerable people in our council area. So cutting their budget by £1.5 million to me is incredibly unfair. And the third element of the budget that I feel is unfair is the introduction of evening and night parking charges, a tax revenue on residents and our small business communities. And the reason I think that's unfair is it affects two groups of people. Firstly, it will affect our small and independent businesses that rely on parking in the evenings to run their businesses. People like our pubs and our restaurants that already find it really tough, and this will make their lives much tougher. And also residents that have little choice but to park in Dorset Council car parks. So that could be people that live like in Bedminster Square who live above shops and don't have driveways, people that live in flats, house of multiple occupancies, or even people that don't have a home right now who are forced to live in bed and breakfasts and obviously don't have the luxury of a driveway. They'll have no choice but to pay this extra tax. It raises very little money and actually just goes towards subsidising the failed car park scheme that was trialled last year to subsidise cheap car parking for tourist car parks. To me, adding that tax onto Dorset residents and making life tougher for vulnerable people and our small business community is unfair. We tabled a motion or an amendment last night to address those three unfairnesses. That was to re-establish the funding for youth grant budgets and the cost of living fund, and also to scrap night parking charges. I voted for those amendments. Unfortunately, the Liberal Democrat, Green, Independent and one Labour councillor, I believe, didn't vote for it. So that amendment failed. At that point, I was then asked to vote on a budget that I felt was unfair and a budget that I could not justify to you. So that is why I voted against last night's budget, because I'm against cutting funding to youth groups, vulnerable people and extra taxes on local communities and businesses. Happy to take any questions on those sorts of things. I have my regular surgeries. You can contact me on social media, you can email me, or you can just stop me in the street and I'm happy to explain in more detail. But I wanted to take 5 minutes just to explain to you why I voted against last night's budget. And I voted against it because it's an unfair budget that will harm the most vulnerable people in our communities. So I hope that it makes sense, and I hope to speak to you soon. Have a great day. Bye for now.